Hello, folks. We are starting the webinar now. So once again, this is Robin here from Zoho. Uh, Thank you for joining us today on our webinar on e-invoicing. Before we get started with the webinar, some general housekeeping stuff on our webinar platform, Zoho Showtime. On your left pane, you can see the questions, polls, and chats tab. So if you have any questions on e-invoicing, you can ask us your question and questions there, and we will answer the questions for you. As always, second thing, voting is very important. Like you had the first poll, we have few poll questions lined up for you. So please try to participate in them to make the session more interactive. If you have any question that you would like to tell us or anything that you would like to tell us, please use the chat tab. Like if you can hear me respond to this message from my end, please put up a hello or a thumbs up in the chat tab. Other things to note, questions in chat tab will not be answered. So please ask these questions in the questions tab. This causes a huge amount of confusion to which one to answer and which one not answer. So please use the question tab for questions and the chat tab for any communication part. So next, before we start off with the webinar, one more thing about e-invoicing in Zoho products. E-invoicing will be available in Zoho Books, Zoho Invoice, Zoho Inventory, and Zoho Subscriptions from October 1st. From October 1st, we will have a follow-up session to see how you can use e-invoicing on Zoho Books, Zoho Invoice, Zoho Inventory, and Zoho Subscriptions. So in this session, we have CA Preetham Mahore, who will explain us why e-invoicing is preferred by governments globally, how it is being mandated in India, for which segments it is applicable, what the process of e-invoice is, what are the modes of generation entities that are likely to be affected by e-invoicing. Next, he would talk about how invoice registration portal works, how IR and QR code work together, and finally, schema and content of an e-invoice. To wrap up the session, we see what are the challenges that will impact businesses. And we also have a small demo lined up for you on how e-invoicing would work in Zoho Books by one of our product experts. And then we'll address some of the frequently asked questions on e-invoicing. So about the speaker of the session, CA Preetham Mahore. CA Preetham Mahore works extensively on Indian GST and Gulf VAT. His journey to disseminate knowledge on GST started in 2009. Since then, he addressed more than 200 trainings for more than 10 key trade bodies in India and trained more than 20,000 professionals and 5,000 government officials, and has been consistently rated 9 out of 10. He has authored more than 15 free books on GST and how to be future-proof. He has also authored numerous insightful articles and commented in more than 100 news articles in leading media houses like TaxIndiaOnline.com, Business Standard, Times of India, Asian Age, The Hindu, etc. His articles, insights have created policy-level impacts, including lowering of GST on travel or to Hajj. He has taken Indian GST expertise to the world by writing exclusive ebooks on UAE VAT, Bahrain VAT, as well as Bhutan GST. Further, he wrote articles on Gulf VAT for leading media houses across Gulf. He was also a master trainer for ICAI Dubai, as well as conducting more than 50 trainings on VAT across UAE, Oman, Bahrain, and Kuwait. Now, I think I will pass on the session control to CA Preetham Mahore.
Thank you.
Hello, sir. Can you hear us?
Yes, we can. And I hope I'm audible.
Yes, sir. You're audible and very clear to me. I'll check with my audience as well. So can everybody see and hear Preetham, sir?
Wonderful.
Yes. So we've got many yeses. I think we can go ahead with the sessions.
Superb. Wonderful.
Yes.
So at the outset, we would like to thank all the participants for their active participation and thanks for joining. We are also thankful to Team Zoho as well as Robin ji for the kind words of introduction. So friends, without much ado, let's get started on our today's webinar. Friends, I think all of you will agree that typically it is said that technology brings disruption. But many a time, I think all of you would have seen that particularly after 1st of July 2017, GST is also bringing a substantial amount of disruption in the business. And I would say on a positive side also, because typically all the businesses used to work on their desktop platforms. But right now, after the introduction of GST, because everything is moving online. I think many of us are now preferring cloud platforms as well, and that's a positive change. And in that direction only, today we are going to discuss about the concept of e-invoicing, wherein not only we are going to discuss about the past, but also the present and the likely future issues. So, friends, I think all of you will agree that when GST was introduced, there was a concept which was embedded in the GST itself, that there would be a concept of invoice matching. Though in the initial days, this GSTR 1, 2, 3, the earlier returns which were proposed, they could not be initiated, and that's where we started with GSTR 1 and 3B as a just kind of a intermittent mechanism, and that's where our journey started in GST on 1st July 2017. After that, I think all of you be knowing that in 2018-19, the government introduced the concept of e-way bill, and subsequently they also started on their portal this making the details of invoice matching available through GSTR 2A. In the next year, that is 2019-20, I think all of you are aware that from October 2019, the concept of restriction on input tax credit was introduced through Rule 36 subclause 4, wherein it was said that you should not be claiming more than 120% of credit. So if the credit which is available on your online data is 100, then you are given additional bandwidth of only 20%. And from 1st of January 2020, it was brought down to 10% only. As all of you are aware, this bandwidth of 10% excess or this Rule 36 subclause 4 has been put it right now is not operational from February to August, and it will be operational from the next month onwards again. So, friend, this is, I think, a phase-wise introduction of the concept of e-invoicing indirectly. Although e-invoicing is a separate concept, but at least at a matching level, I would say that this is somewhere a direction which the government would like to have in GST. Even in the initial days, that is in the month of January 2020, the government had specifically mentioned that they would be introducing the concept of e-invoicing right from January on a voluntary basis. And subsequently, they told us that they would be making it compulsory from April 2020 onwards. However, because of Corona crisis, I think the government decided that they would not be in a position to roll out this scheme, and even the taxpayer will not be ready. And that's where they proposed a new date. And that's where, friends, today we are here on 20th of August. And as all of you are aware, that e-invoicing is likely to be implemented from 1st of October 2020. If you look at the number of days which are left from today onwards, it is just 33 the number of days. And that's where we need to be a bit serious about this concept of e-invoicing. And why I'm saying a bit serious, because even day in, day out, we regularly receive calls from many of our tax-paying clients. They say that, is there a possibility that e-invoicing is likely to be postponed? So we always share with them, yes, certainly there is a possibility, but as a business, we cannot depend on that possibility. What we need to focus is basically, what if e-invoicing is introduced on 1st of October 2020, whether we are ready for that possibility. Because as a business, we cannot work on if and buts. And that's where, instead of questioning, will it be introduced on 1st October or not, I think our thought process should be, because only 33 days are left, we should directly start working on the concept of e-invoicing, assuming that it will be introduced on 1st of October 2020. Friends, the concept of e-invoicing is not or the first of its kind which is being introduced in India. It's globally already prevalent. Many of the countries have this concept of electronic invoicing. Please note that electronic invoicing does not mean a PDF invoice. Rather, it means that certain set of data, you make it available to the government in a particular format in which the government needs that data. Now, all of you will have a question, why the government needs that data? The basic reason for that is, I think globally, numerous GST or VAT evasion frauds continuously happen. Even in India, if you look at the last 3 years number, approximately 1,20,000 crore worth GST frauds have been detected by DGGI already. And out of that, 30,000 crore has been already been recovered by the government. And that's where the government is of the thought process, and across the world, the same thought process is that it is much better to collect the details of the invoices right at the time when the invoice is being prepared by the taxpayer, rather than waiting for him to file the GST returns. Because what happens that when the government waits for filing of GST returns, typically, if we are talking about an invoice which is dated 1st of September 2020, then typically all of us will file our GSTR1 on 10th of October, and that's where there will be a time lag of 40 days. Now, across the world, the thought process is that whenever a business is raising an invoice, that data should be communicated with the government on a real-time basis. Now, what happens that once you communicate the data to the government upfront, then practically it becomes difficult for the businesses also to make any subsequent changes in that invoice details. And that's where across the world's government are right now preferring reporting of invoices on a real-time basis. Additionally, the government could have simply asked you to submit the PDF copy of the invoice. But practically, all of you are aware that if the government is asking us to submit a PDF copy of the tax invoice, then the systems will not be in a position to read that invoice. And that's where they need a details in a particular format, which is system readable. And that's where the government has zeroed on a particular format called a JSON format. Typically, you can understand it as simple as the Excel format, correct? So that the data can be read by the machines, and the machines then can perform various data analytics on the data which is gathered by the government. And certainly, it will help the government to reduce the number of tax frauds which are taking place across India. Friends, as we said that the concept of e-invoicing has already been prevalent in across the world, and that's where if you look at across the world, I think countries like South Korea, Germany, European Union could be referred. When you look at South Korea, certainly they have one of the very good e-invoicing mechanism, we would say. Additionally, the country like Germany is also has proposed, and the e-invoicing is currently evolving in Germany. When you look at European Union is also recommending that typically e-invoicing should be introduced. But please note that across the world, the time limit or the time for transition has been substantially higher as compared to India. In India, we have introduced the INV1 format, INV1 format, only on 30th of July, and we are expecting that taxpayers should be ready by 1st of October. Globally, the time limit for transition is around 3 years. So certainly it's a very short time which we are right now having. And that's where we said that rather than worrying about the fact that will it be introduced or not, our thought process as business should be that we should start working on the concept of invoicing straight away. Friends, when you look at the number of invoices which are generated globally vis-a-vis the number of e-invoices which are generated, you'll be able to understand that around 10% of the invoices globally are e-invoices. So 90% is still the physical manual invoicing system. So it's certainly a bold move on India's part to introduce this kind of a concept, which is rather yet to find foothold even up across the world or globally, because many developing or developed countries are yet to experience or introduce the concept of e-invoicing. Friends, many of you would be having a doubt why the government would like to get into the concept of invoicing, why they would like to touch upon the concept of invoices per se. Friend, the basic reason for that is that if anyone who is from the outside, if somebody wants to understand your business activity, basically that person can be in a position to understand your business activity only through your invoices, practically, correct? Either he can go through your all entire balance sheets, financials, and all, and then he will be in a position to understand your business model. But at the same time, simply going through your purchase and sales invoices also, one can easily understand what is your business model, what is your profit margin, what are the goods you are buying, what are the goods you are selling, to whom you are buying, from whom to whom you are selling, at what rate the goods are bought, at what rate the goods are sold. And this entire data can be simply generated through your invoices. And that's where one can easily say that invoices is nothing but pulse of the business. And that's where the government wants to convert this pulse which is there from physical form to a digital form by way of e-invoicing. Because once the government starts getting that data on a real time basis, it will become very easy for the government to curb all the likely GST frauds in days to come. Friends, before we get into the concept of invoicing, we need to understand first what are the relevant legal provisions which are applicable in today's discussion. I think, friends, all of you are very much conversant with the GST Act, and that's where we need to refer to the section 2, which talks about the definitions, wherein section 2 subclause 66 talks about the definition of invoices. Then section 31, as all of you are aware, talks about the fact that a taxpayer is required to issue a tax invoice when he's supplying goods or services. Section 16 talks about input tax credit. And naturally, if you don't follow, if you don't issue an invoice, if you don't receive an invoice, typically there would be various severe interest and penal consequences or prosecution also which will follow. Additionally, friend, not only we are supposed to refer to the CGST, IGST Act or AGST Act, we are also expected to refer to various rules under GST. All of you are aware that Rule 46 typically talks about tax invoices, and Rule 54 talks about scenarios wherein a tax invoice or other than a tax invoice can be issued by certain taxpayers. Rule 48, all of we are going to discuss that today, talks about how or the manner of issuing tax invoices, correct? Friends, in the context of e-invoices, the government has issued around 11 notifications. We have mentioned all the notifications on your slide, and we have also given the link to all these notifications separately by way of annexure slides, which will be sharing with you. But friends, not only all of us are expected to look at the act, rules, and notifications, but because it's a technology concept, we also are expected to refer to the website which is created by the government, that is einvoice1.gst.gov.in. And by referring to this website, you'll be able to understand various other aspects also, which are typically technology based. And all those aspects will help you understand the concept of e-invoices. So friends, let's first understand the legal side of invoicing, and then we'll get to the technology side of the invoicing. Friends, when you look at the concept of invoices, I think all of you are aware that typically invoice means the invoice which is issued by the taxpayer under Section 31. And Section 31, as all of you are aware, talks about the fact that whenever you are making a supply, whenever you are making a taxable supply, you are expected to issue an invoice. Now, in the last 3 years, I think all of you are issuing tax invoices. There is no question about that. But then the government realized that not only the taxpayer should be issuing an invoice with particular contents, correct? There are numerous contents such as name, your address, the GST and number of yours, then customer GST and number, all those contents should be there. But at the same time, these contents should be communicated to the government in a particular format or in a particular manner also. And that's where through Rule 48, the government is specifying what is the manner of issuing invoices. And if you refer to Rule subclause 4 of Rule 48, you'll be able to understand the government is saying that we need to now issue, if you are covered under the specified category of taxpayer, then you are expected to issue the invoice in a particular format, and that form is GST in 01, correct? Additionally, you are also expected to get a IRN number, that is invoice reference number, and all this will happen after you submit your details through a JSON file at an electronic portal. So the government through Rule 48 is specifying as to the manner in which you are expected to issue the tax invoices if the e-invoicing is applicable to you. If e-invoicing is not applicable to you, then in such cases you can continue to issue the tax invoices in a normal manner under Section 31. Friends, please note that if e-invoicing is applicable to you and if you don't issue the e-invoices in a prescribed manner, then Rule 48 subclause 5 specifically says that the document which you are issuing will not be treated as an invoice, and it will have a severe implication for all of us. And what kind of implication it will have, we will see that separately in a subsequent slide. But before that, we need to understand some other concepts. So let's understand those concepts. So friends, first let us understand, I think all of you will be having a doubt as to whom this is applicable. Before we understand to whom it is applicable, we first need to understand to whom it is not applicable, correct? So if you look at it broadly, the government through various notifications has specified that e-invoicing concept will not be applicable to a SEZ unit specifically. Additionally, they have also specified certain list of taxpayer such as insurer, banking company, transporter, NBFC, financial institution, passenger transport service providers, persons who are having multiplexes, correct? All these entities they have excluded. So what is the reason for that? One of the reason which we can identify is that typically insurance companies, banking company, GTA service providers, FI, so typically almost most of the income of banking company, insurance company is not subjected to GST because they are earning interest on that, correct? Additionally, when you look at multiplexes, passenger transport services, I think all of you will agree that typically these transactions are B2C transactions, and that's where the government is not that much interested in getting that data at this point of time. Maybe at a subsequent stage, they will add these taxpayers also. So all these entities are not expected to comply with the concept of e-invoicing at present. Additionally, friends, now let us understand to whom this e-invoicing concept is applicable and from what date. As all of you are aware that the date which is specified is 1st of October 2020, and this concept of e-invoicing is applicable to you if you are not covered under the previous list which we discussed, such as you are not a SEZ unit, you are not a bank, correct? And if your turnover is more than 500 crore, naturally the first question which will be coming to your mind is what is meant by the term aggregate turnover. So friends, please note that the term aggregate turnover is specifically defined under the GST Act under Section 2 subclause 6. Friends, typically aggregate turnover will not only include your taxable turnover, but also your exempted turnover as well. And also there are a few other inclusions. But friends, we will like to share here that we should not debate on the concept of aggregate turnover. We need not understand this concept also. And why we are saying this? Because the GSTN has already issued or sent an email to almost all the taxpayer whose turnover is more than 500 crore. And this kind of email they have sent, wherein they are telling the taxpayer that your company is having annual turnover of greater than 500 crore as per their records in the financial year 1920, and accordingly they are saying that this e-invoicing concept is applicable to you, and thus you should take appropriate the next steps which are applicable to you. And that's where, friends, try to go through your invoice email boxes which you have communicated to the GSTN, correct, at the time of taking registration. Also check your junk folder, spam folder, to ensure that if this kind of email is received to you, that means this e-invoicing concept is applicable to you. Additionally, what you can do, if you are not received the email, don't worry. What you can do, you can go to the government portal, correct, you can go to the government portal and this e-invoicing portal, and you can check whether this basically e-invoicing concept is applicable to you or not. You can just mention your GSTN number and you can add the captcha, and you will be able to understand whether e-invoice concept is applicable to you or not. In case you still believe that your turnover is above 500 crore and as per GSTN data it is not applicable to you, but you believe that it is applicable to you as per your own calculation, then what you should do, you should immediately write an email to GSTN informing the same, so that they will enable you to carry out or do invoicing also, a testing, correct. So that activity you should immediately do. Now, friends, who is going to get impacted in India because of e-invoicing? As per some of the data which is available in the public domain, it is mentioned that around more than 48,000 GSTINs are likely to get impacted. If you look at PAN based, around 7,500 taxpayers are expected to get covered under the concept of e-invoicing. Now, all of you are aware that the number of taxpayers which are there under the GST are more than 1.25 crore number of taxpayers who are registered in GST. So all of you will say, if the number is 1.25 crore and only for 7,500 entities the e-invoicing is applicable, then why this exercise should be done? One of the reason for that is, friend, that although the number of taxpayers is only 7,500, or still the tax collection which happens from these 7,500 entities is more than 45%. And that's where the government wants to ensure that they should get started with introduction of e-invoicing concept on more than 500 crore entities, and over a period of time, phase wise, they will reduce this 500 crore limit. Maybe next could be 2,250 crore, then 100 crore, then 50 crore, then 25 crore, something like that. And then phase wise, they will try to bring all the taxpayers inside the ambit of e-invoicing. And naturally, the large taxpayers will also have this IT muscle, and they will have appropriate team also to implement this concept. And that's where the government intends to make it applicable for above 500 crore entities. But friends, although this concept is applicable for above 500 crore entities, please note that indirectly it might be applicable to all of us. And how it is applicable to all of us? Because under Rule 48 subclause 5, as we discussed, that typically if the invoice which is issued, and if the supplier is expected to issue e-invoice, and if he issues a normal invoice, then this kind of document will not be considered even as invoice. And that's where, if Pritham Maurya and Associate, if we are buying laptop from a company like Dell, and if they issue a normal invoice to us as a B2B transaction, although their turnover is more than 500 crore, and although e-invoice is applicable to them, then in such cases, as a Pritham Maurya and Associate, it might be a challenge for us to claim input tax credit, because Rule 48(5) says that the document will not be considered as an invoice only. Because all of you are aware that under Section 16 of GST law, subclause 2, you are entitled to claim the credit if you are having a copy of the tax invoice or debit note. So if a person was supposed to issue a e-invoice, and if he issues a normal invoice, then the recipient can also be denied the input tax credit. That is a risk which is apparent, and that's where all of us need to be a bit careful, that and we should do a detailed review of this aspect, that whether e-invoicing is applicable to us or not. At the same time, we should also, at least on a macro level basis, ensure that all the supplier who are supplying goods or services to us, if e-invoicing is applicable to them, they should take appropriate steps for the same. Otherwise, it might lead to denial of input tax credit to us as a recipient. Friends, next question which we'll be having is, okay, if e-invoicing concept is applicable to us, what are the documents which we need to submit to the government? Whether e-invoicing means only invoices per se. So in this regard, friends, please note that not only invoices you need to report it e-invoice format, but also the credit note and debit notes. And that's where it is not only e-invoices means only invoices, but at the same time, even it is applicable to credit note and also to debit note. So we will say, okay, credit note and debit notes are covered. What about other document, for example, job work challan and all? So please note, as far as other documents are concerned, right now to all these documents, e-invoicing concept is not applicable. But at the same time, kindly note that the notification specifically says that other document may be specified by the government. So in years to come, days to come, the government might do that. But as of now, only for invoices, debit note and credit note, the concept of e-invoicing is applicable. Additionally, friends, please note that this concept is applicable e-invoicing. You need to generate e-invoices only in case of B2B transactions. Now, few of you may say that we are supplying to government, whether it is applicable. So friends, please note that even government organization, government department have obtained GST registration number, and typically they might also even claim input tax credit. And that's where even in case of B2G transaction, that is business to government transaction also, e-invoices might become applicable if your turnover is more than 500 crore. But at the same time, please note that if you are engaged into or if you are supplying goods or services to a B2C scenario, that is business to consumer scenario, then in such cases, e-invoicing would not be applicable at present. Friends, typically a business would be having various types of supplies, correct? He might be doing a domestic supply, he might be doing certain exports, he might also be engaged into importing certain goods, correct? In this regard, please note, as far as domestic supply is concerned, e-invoices are applicable. Even with respect to export transaction, you are expected to raise or comply with the e-invoicing provisions. And with respect to imports, please note that typically bill of entry would be generated, and that's where this concept may not be applicable, that is e-invoicing may not be applicable. Friends, this aspect that e-invoices are applicable for export is also specified at a particular FAQ which is provided on the GST portal, and this FAQ we are reproduced here. We can go through the same at a later stage. Friends, many of you would be also having a doubt that typically e-invoices are applicable for forward charge mechanism. What about reverse charge mechanism? In this regard, we would like to highlight that in a particular FAQ which is available on the GST portal, it is specifically mentioned that e-invoice system has a reverse charge mechanism reporting as well. That means even for reverse charge mechanism, it appears that e-invoicing would be applicable. And that's where, friends, not only for your output supplies, e-invoices is applicable, but also for your reverse charge mechanism document also e-invoices is applicable. Friends, let us broadly understand what is the process all of us follow when we enter into a particular transaction with our customer. So what will happen? You will sign an agreement with your customer, or a purchase order would be signed, correct? Then you might supply goods or services, so you will create an invoice. And then after that, typically if you are supplying goods, you will generate e-way bill. After that, you will file GSTR1, then GSTR3B, your annual return would be filed, you will carry out annual audit. And then if the department comes to you for GST audit, you will submit the data. So typically these were the steps which all of us used to take. Now, after the introduction of e-invoicing concept from 1st of October, if the concept of e-invoicing is applicable to you, typically the serial number 3, 4 and 5, these would be the new steps which all of us would be required to follow. That is, you will have to create a JSON file, you will have to upload the JSON file, you will have to get an e-invoice from the government portal, correct? Because you will have to submit the details, and then you will have to print the QR code also on your invoices. Many of the time we have received various questions from the participant, wherein the participant are typically having a doubt whether they need to go on the government portal and prepare an invoice there. So in this regard, please note, friend, that the GSTN portal, correct, it is not for preparation. The e-invoices need not be prepared. It is not required to be prepared or generated on the GST portal. Rather, it is only intimating to the government, correct? So you'll have to prepare and create the invoices only in your ERP system, your accounting system only. So typically, or in a manual manner, whatever. And then you are going to upload these details at the government portal. So there is a difference wherein you are creating the invoices on the government portal, vis-a-vis you are intimating the details to the government in a particular format. Now, next question would be, who is expected to generate the e-invoices? Because typically in case of e-way bill, I think all of you are aware, a supplier can generate a e-way bill, a recipient can generate, and even a transporter can generate. But in case of e-invoices, please note, it is only a supplier who is expected to generate a e-invoices, correct? In case of e-commerce operator, there is a special provision that they can be authorized to issue invoices. But if you are not an e-commerce operator, then please note that typically only a supplier is expected to generate invoices and not anyone else. Now, you'll be having a question as to how to prepare invoices. So friends, as we discussed, and our Zoho team will also take you through the live process or demo also as to how this entire flow is going to happen. But broadly, we will share with you how the things are going to happen at a macro level. So the team at Zoho team can take you through the manual or granular process also. So friends, when you look at the invoicing concept, as we said, that typically will prepare the invoices in your accounting or ERP tool itself. in your, after you create the invoices in your own system, after that you will create the details which are required for creating a JSON file, correct? Because you will be required to submit the data to the IRP, that is invoice registration portal. Now, please note, before you submit and before you create these details, you'll have to keep in your mind that the government is asking you to submit certain mandatory fields, correct? And you will have a choice to also submit certain optional fields. So all these mandatory fields need to be reported in the format which the government is telling us, and we are going to discuss about that also at a later stage. But broadly, we can share with you the invoice number, for example, should be starting with a particular digit other than 0. So it should not be 001, but rather it should be starting with 1, correct? Otherwise the system will not be in a position to understand that format, and that's where you need to mention the specified particulars which are required for generation of invoices. Once you submit the data to the government portal, correct, IRP, then you will get a valid, if the details are all valid details which you are submitting, all the mandatory fields you are submitting, then typically you will get a e-invoice along with IRN number and QR code also. And also it is expected that the GST portal will digitally sign, the IRP will digitally typically sign the e-invoices also. Now there are various methodology or modes of generation of invoices. Typically you can use a offline utility, bulk utility. You can directly do a direct API integration, or you can do API integration also through a GST Suvidha provider. These are the various methodologies. Now, before you submit or upload the details, you will have to ensure that typically if you are having a login ID for e-way bill portal, then you can use the same login ID at the e-invoice1 trial.nic.in, and then you can submit or create the JSON and submit it. If you are a service provider, typically you may not be having a e-way bill portal login ID. In such cases, you will have to create that e-way bill e-invoicing specifically login ID. After you upload the JSON file, correct? So typically the government will get the details, they will validate it, and after that you will get e-invoice with appropriate IRN, QR code, and it would be digitally signed as we said. And this particular flow is also shared by the government at various trainings as well. Friends, many of you would be having doubt as to what is the IRN number, correct, and what is QR code. Friends, after the JSON file is validated by the invoice registration portal with certain basic parameters like GSTN of the supplier and recipient, invoice number, because duplication check will happen, then IRN number and QR code will get generated. Now, what is IRN number? Basically, it is a 64-digit number. Basically, this number is generated or going to get generated by the government using the GSTN of yours, the financial year in which the invoice is issued, then typical the document type and the number of the document, that is your invoice number. So using this, a 64-digit hash would be created. And please note, this IRN would be unique for a particular financial year for throughout India. So there won't be any other number similar to this, correct? Additionally, please note that once IRN is generated, basically it will authenticate that particular transaction indirectly. And that's where not only the government will get the details, but also the transporters as well as the buyers would be in a position to claim the input tax credit on such document which are valid e-invoices. Additionally, it is also likely in days to come, the bankers might also rely on e-invoices only, because they will say that it indirectly validates the fact that you are reporting the details to the government on a real-time basis. Friends, please note that IRN or e-invoices concept is not only applicable right now for goods, but it is also applicable for services. Because if you go back to your old e-way bill concept, I think all of you are aware that e-way bill concept was only applicable for goods transaction and not applicable for service transactions. And that's where we need to keep in mind that e-invoicing is not only applicable for goods transaction, but also for services. And that is one of the major change which is going to take place. What is a QR code? QR code, I think all of you are aware that QR code is nothing but a similar concept like a barcode. And as all of you are aware that if you are going to a grocery shop and whenever you are buying some FMCG product or even a chocolate, typically you'll have a barcode which is mentioned on that particular packet. And if you, the concept of QR code is very much similar to that. And what will happen that if a particular invoice is having this QR code, then only by scanning that QR code through your mobile, a simple mobile, the person who is scanning that QR code, he will be able to understand what is the GSTN of the supplier, what is the GSTN of the recipient and all. So it will make this entire process very quick for the government officers, because as all of you are aware, typically during transportation of goods, so if your goods are particularly being checked at a particular location, then only by using QR code, the government authorities will be in a position to understand whether appropriate invoices or document have been issued or not. And that's the importance of QR code, because quickly it will generate certain details. Friends, please note that whenever you are going to generate a e-invoices data, that e-invoice data would be available on the government portal only for 24 hours. And that's where you need to be careful that this data will not be there for more than 24 hours. So we need to obviously have the detail, even e-invoices details saved in our own portal also, our own database as well, because the government portal will delete that entire data within 24 hours. Many one of you would be having a doubt as to what are the contents which we need to specify. So friends, please note that the schema was also this schema or the particulars which are required to be specified in case of invoices was also issued by the government or told to us even in the month of January. However, the government has amended that details by way of notification 60 by 2020, and they have issued a revised schema on 30th of July 2020, wherein around I think 20 field they have added and 13 field they have removed. So what are the new fields which they have added? Basically now you can mention discount, because earlier it was only at the item level, but now you can give discount even at invoice level also. Even you can mention export duty details, even the state name, the state code you can add in the same, correct? Country codes you will need to mention if you are exporting, and please note that the country code would be provided to you by the customs authority, and you will have to get it from the custom portal and then use it. So friends, as we discussed that the invoices which details which you need to mention on e-invoice, typically it can be split in two basket. One, the mandatory fields which are there in the invoice, and second is other than mandatory or optional fields. Now, the mandatory fields typically have various details, and if you add all the mandatory and the optional field, you will be able to understand there are more than 140 contents or particulars which you are expected to submit to the government. Please note, at one go 140 won't be applicable, assuming 50% are applicable, but still 70 content you will have to share with the government. And please note, all these contents which you are going to share with the government, they will need to be in a particular format. And what is we are meaning by format? As we mentioned, that if you are giving a document number or invoice number as 001, then typically the system will not understand that, and that's where you need to start your invoice number from 1 and not from 00. So these kind of precautions you will have to take, and that's where it becomes important for all of you that not only you are ensuring that you are gathering all the details which are mandatorily required to be communicated to the government, but also you need to ensure that these details are communicated to the government in a particular format, because only after that you will be in a position to generate a e-invoice. Many of the taxpayers were having a doubt, and even this doubt was raised when initially the discussion of e-invoicing was starting. Many people said that whether e-invoice schema or the format would be separate for various people. For example, for manufacturers, traders, professionals, contractors, whether it will be separate or different. In this regard, right from day one, I think the government has kept the stand that it won't be separate. Everybody would be required to submit similar kind of details in the e-invoice format. So please note that the schema or format is not separate for various types of people or taxpayers. It is unique, or it is same for every one of us, correct? So it is not separate. Then some of you might be having a question as to, can we even provide the transport details in e-invoice? So please note that transport detail we need to add only in the e-way bill only, and not in e-invoices. Additionally, friends, many one of you would be having a question in your mind that what if IRN is not generated? So in case IRN is not generated, the government has specifically clarified that invoice would be valid only if IRN is generated. That means otherwise it will be considered as an invalid invoice. Plus, you might want to print the e-invoice, correct? So in this regard, the government has given various methodologies. You can using the signed JSON payload also you can get the e-invoices printed, or if you can follow certain steps also, like say steps 1 2 3 which are there in the slide, and using this also you can print the invoices. Because these steps are already there, we will not discuss the same. Friends, many one of you would be having a question. Okay, this is all about the fact that if I'm supplying or giving or providing goods or services to other person, that is I am a supplier, and I want to check whether the appropriate e-invoice has been issued by the supplier or not, because as a buyer I want to claim input tax credit. So in this regard, you can also verify the signed invoices, friend, and the government has given a link. So by using this particular link, you can go to this site and you can verify whether appropriate e-invoice has been issued to you or not. So this is also a very important thing. So the government has made various tools or details which are available to all of you, using which you can verify all these things, correct? So it's a very good thing, I would say, which has been done by GST authorities. Friends, then the next question is that, okay, we have generated invoices, correct? What happens after that, correct? Where this data will go? Friends, please note that once you generate a e-invoice, if you are supplying goods, typically you will be required to generate e-invoice, e-way bill also. So this data would be transported or given or handed over to e-way bill portal also. So automatically certain details will get auto-populated at a e-way bill portal. At the same time, because all these invoices which are generated by you, typically these are your outward supply invoices, correct? So all these details will also get transported in through GST portal itself to GSTR1 also, and that's where your GSTR1 is also expected to get auto populated. Now, after raising up e-invoice, after communicating details to the e-invoice portal, how e-way bill data would be auto-populated, how GSTR would be, GSTR1 details would be auto-populated and all, that we'll have to see on a live-to-live basis. But as of now, the GST authorities are specifically mentioning that this is likely to happen. And certainly if it happens, it will reduce your workload, because all these details would be auto-populated in your GSTR1 as well as your e-way bill portal. But friends, please note, at the same time, you will have to ensure, at least in the initial days, that when you are uploading the details of e-invoices, you will have to ensure that the details which are appearing on e-way bill portal as well as GSTR1, they are appropriate. Because sometime, because of data lag or some other challenges, technical glitches, it might happen that you have entered in X amount and it might appear as a Y amount there. That's where, at least on a sample basis, you should do a sanity check in the initial days. Friend, there are also a few other important aspects which all of us need to keep in mind. Typically, all of you would be having a question that if I generate an e-invoice, can I delete that? Can I modify it? So friends, in this regard, please note the government is specifically mentioning that once you generate an e-invoice, you cannot modify or delete it. What you can do is only cancel it. Also, please note you can do that cancellation only within 24 hours. So beyond that, you cannot do it. But then you will have a doubt as to what should I do if I have made a mistake. Then typically you can do the correction through GSTR1. That's the option available to you, correct? But if you do the correction through GSTR1 because 24 hours are left, then in such cases the government will know which invoices and how you have modified, and that's where you need to be a bit careful at the time of communicating the details to the government itself, rather than doing the changes afterwards, because all these changes which you are going to do afterwards would be questioned by the government. Friends, also please note that once you raise a e-invoice, and after that if you generate a e-way bill, after that you cannot cancel the e-way bill. You can cancel the e-way bill after generation of e-way bill only if you are canceling e-way bill also. That's where you need to be a bit careful, that if you are if you are having a invoice, after that you are issuing a e-way bill, then practically that means you cannot cancel a e-invoice. Obviously, if you cancel e-way bill, then it is possible. And again, the 24-hour time limit is there, so that's where be a bit careful. Friends, additionally, we would like to share some of the challenges which are likely to arise after introduction of e-way bill. I think all of you will agree that after introduction of e-invoicing, certainly it will mean that the compliances will increase for all of us, because not only you are expected to file the GST returns, not only you are expected to generate e-way bills, but you are also expected to now communicate e-invoices to the government on a regular basis. So certainly it adds one more compliance, particularly to taxpayers who are above 500 crore right now. And in days to come, even other taxpayers are expected to get cover, and that's where even their compliance is expected to increase. Additionally, I think there are a few questions which you would be having in your mind. For example, you will say that typically if the government is getting the details through e-invoicing, then whether e-way bill should continue for all the entities who are having turnover more than 500 crore. Certainly, it's a very good question and very relevant one. Even we believe that if e-invoicing is applicable, there is no requirement, there is no need for the government practically to have a concept of e-way bill to continue. But right now it appears that both the concepts are expected to continue, and maybe in days to come the government might decide to discontinue with e-way bill. But right now it appears both the things are likely to continue. Then you will have a question as to, if I am having a turnover of 400 crore, but still I would like to understand, carry out the activity or generate invoices, can I do it? In this regard, please note that it is not possible right now. Maybe in days to come the government might give this option available or make this option available to smaller taxpayer. Also, friends, many one of you would be having a question in your mind that if I'm having a invoice, does it guarantee input tax credit to me? The answer is straight away no. You will still have to ensure that the supplier who is giving the invoice to you, he also makes payment to the government, because I think all of you are aware, section 16 subclause 2 subclause C specifically talks about the fact that the tax should be actually paid to the government. Although it can be debated by you that actual payment will not mean the payment by the vendor to the government, but rather it should be considered as payment to me by the as a buyer to the supplier. But still it's a debatable point, and that's where you need to ensure that not only you are having copy of the invoice, but also the vendors are appropriately filing their GSTR 3B. Friends, as we discussed that with respect to reverse charge also, the concept of e-invoicing would be applicable. Additionally, after 1st of October, because as a taxpayer you might be generating B2B invoices as well as B2C invoices, you will have to have a GSTR1 reconciliation in place, wherein because you would be raising e-invoices for B2B transaction, and for B2C transaction you continue to raise normal invoices, but in your GSTR1 you will have to reflect all the transactions, correct? That's where this one reconciliation would be there for you. Plus, on a purchase side also, similarly, you'll have to check how many invoices I have received as a company and how many normal invoices I have received, and you'll have to compare that with your GSTR 2A. Plus, you'll have to keep a tab on the fact how many IRN you have generated and vis-a-vis how many invoices you have issued. Ideally, both of them are expected to match, but as all of you are aware, it is expected that few of the invoices you might cancel also, and that's where the number may not match, and you will have to have an appropriate reconciliation for the same. Plus, you will have to have appropriate reconciliation between all the e-way bill which are issued by you vis-a-vis e-invoices which are issued by you. So certainly it will add to one more reconciliation for all of us. Plus, many one of you might be having certain challenges with the concept of e-way bill as well as e-invoicing. Why these challenges? Because I think, what if in your location where the factory is or where the company is, if there is no electricity, no internet, if the ERP is down, if the portal is down, if there is a flood, if there is a calamity, in such cases, if you are unable to connect to the server and if you are unable to generate IRN, then the question would be how the business would be in a position to remove the goods. Practically, does it mean that you will not be in a position to supply goods or services? At present, it appears to be so. We hope that the government clarifies on this particular important aspect, because it is not unnatural for a country like India, wherein there are so many floods, so many times there is a calamity which take place, and that's where the government should ensure that appropriate mechanism should be made available to the taxpayer, that in case of exceptional scenarios, they should be allowed to remove the goods even without invoices if the invoice concept is applicable to them. Friends, as we discussed that we are only left with now 33 days, and in because of paucity of time, you'll have to ensure that as a tax team you understand the concept of e-invoicing appropriately, and then you highlight this concept to the IT team, and then by appropriately coordinating internally as well as with your external consultant, you implement this concept of e-invoicing within just next 33 days. As a way forward, we would like to highlight that, as we mentioned, that because very few days are left, very handful days are left, try to carry out UAT at the earliest, that is user acceptability test. In case you are having certain concerns, please try to share the same with the authorities if you are experiencing certain concerns. And also, although we are in a lockdown situation, still you should try to coordinate internally with all your teams, be it procurement, sales, account, logistic, tax team, and ensure that this concept of e-invoicing is appropriately implemented in your organization before 1st of October 2020. Otherwise, it might hamper your business operations, because you will not be in a position to supply goods or services after 1st of October 2020 if invoicing is applicable to you. Friends, as we discussed that there are few good features which are available at the government portal. You can try all these features out, and we have given the link also for that. For example, you can do taxpayer search whether e-invoicing is applicable to you or not. And when you are doing this, if you believe as an organization that e-invoicing is applicable to you but the government portal is telling you not applicable, then take a screenshot of that data, correct, and share that data or details with the government or GSTN portal, and tell them that in our view it is applicable but your portal is telling it is not applicable, correct. Additionally, all the businesses who believe that the GSTN data or the GST portal data is appropriate and it is not applicable to you, and even the GST search is also indicating the same thing, then take the screenshot of that, Because what will happen if tomorrow authorities are asking you, maybe in the month of December, why you are not issuing e-invoices? At least you will have some data or details which are readily available with you, based on which you took a decision that e-invoicing is not applicable to you. Friends, as we discussed that there are more than 11 notifications which were issued, we are given the list of all the notifications which are issued chronologically. Also, we have given the list and we have also highlighted the fact as to how the notification got amended. In the presentation, we have also shared with you all the link to the various relevant document, be it rules, be it the user manual, be it the format of invoice 01 and etc. So this is available and this would be shared to you by way of a separate email. So with this, friend, we are through with our session on e-invoicing. Now we will request the team Zoho to take the session forward, wherein the team Zoho can specifically share with the participant as to how these e-invoices can be generated. So now I will transfer the controls to Robin and he can take it forward.
Thank you so much.
Certainly, meanwhile, we will request the participant to put their questions in the question and answer box. Also, if you are liking or you are enjoying the session, please say so in the chat box. So we'll also get a feedback. And now I will transfer the session to, and obviously we'll have a separate Q&A session also, but after some time after we have a demo. So Robin, I am transferring the control to you now.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for the session. We will come back to you for the Q&A part. So now we have Danish from our Zoho Books team. He's a product expert. He's going to give us a demo on how e-invoicing would work in Zoho Books.
So now, yes, everybody would have been experienced the user interface of Zoho Books, all right? When you get into the settings, preferences, you would have this option of e-invoicing, which you just have to enable it from here. And then you just have to click on configure and give you a set of credentials. Ideally, if you have configured your e-waybill portal, and you can use those same credentials itself here. If not, yes, you can very well register in your IRP portal and given the credentials here and connect your Zoho Books and the e-invoicing portal. So now let's see how this works. I'll create a live transaction and show how this is working out in Zoho Books. We will go to the sales and we are going to create a new invoice. So I just choose the customer's name. Okay, so now we have mandated some of the fields, like let's say the customer name, the billing address, the shipping address is being mandated, and then the GST treatment and the GSTN number, the place of supply, the invoice number, the invoice date. So next part is your item. So if it is going to be your HSN or an SAC, that also has been mandated. So once you choose the item, the HSN or the SAC will show as yes if it is you have entered it or not there, and you will be saving it as a draft. This will not be sent to the customer. I mean, this invoice would not be sent to the customer directly. Okay, and then now the label would be put up here as it is yet to be pushed, just because we have not yet pushed this invoice to the IRP portal and we have not generated the IRN number and the QR code. Once you are in this screen, it's just a simple step ahead, which you would be clicking on push to IRP. Okay. It just took milliseconds. All right. And now the status label would be changed as pushed. Once it is changed as pushed, if you just scroll down a little bit, the invoice would be visible to you. And this is the IRN number. And this is how the QR code would be placed up here. Okay. Now, let's say that, yes, you have pushed this invoice to the IRP portal, but wherein there are some errors. Let's say the HSN or the SAC code, which you have entered, is of a wrong one. All right. It is it's not a valid one. What we will be doing is, so now we were looking into the errors part. So now let's say if the HSN or the SAC code is of a wrong one and it is not validated by the IRP portal, what we'd be doing is we'd be putting up a error message here stating that, see, this is the invoice which you have created, which you have pushed to the IRP portal, but wherein there are some errors to be rectified. We just mentioned what is the error. You just have to rectify that error and just repush it to the portal. Okay. And then generate the QR code and the IRN number as such. Okay. Now, let's say you have created this invoice, you have pushed this invoice to the e-invoice portal and got the IRN number, but wherein you want to cancel this invoice. This is not a valid one. Let's say you want to make some changes. So how can this be handled? There are two scenarios in this case now. If the invoice is created and within 24 hours you want to cancel this invoice, ideally this IRN number as well, you can do it from Zoho Books itself. You just need to click on cancel e-invoice, okay, and that's done. So this invoice would be marked as cancelled, and this IRN is not valid. Let's say it's been more than 24 hours now. What do I do? It's simple. You just need to go to the portal, all right, and then that is the GST portal, because if it is going to be within 24 hours, it will be staying in the IRP portal itself. But post 24 hours, it will be pushed to the GST portal. So you just have to go to the GST portal and you just have to mark it as cancelled. That's it. So now there are some status labels which I have put up. So this would say that yes, this is yet to be pushed, and this would say that yes, this is being cancelled. But wherein there are some status, yeah, this is one more status: failed to push to the IRP. You have pushed, but with some errors, right? And the IRN has not been generated. This would be the error which is showing up to you. Yes, this is a failed one. All right. Now let's take another scenario of wherein you are going to generate the invoices in bulk. Okay, so when you are going to create each and every invoice, yes, that's going to be easy for you. Just push it to the IRP portal, get the IRN number. But wherein, let's say you are importing all the invoices and it's generated in bulk, what are you going to do now? You are just going to click on all invoices, this filter out here, and you choose yet to be pushed for e-invoicing. This shows up all the invoices which is yet to be pushed. You just choose all the invoices which you want to push it in bulk to the IRP portal. You click on more here and push it to the IRP. Once you push it to the IRP, let's say a few invoices, let's say a couple of invoices has some errors in it. Okay, let's say the HSN wrong or a GST number is not valid or anything. Okay, how would this be validated now? What we will be doing is we just drop you an email stating that, hi, you have pushed these invoices to the portal, wherein for all these invoices, the IRN has been generated successfully, but wherein there are a few invoices, and these are those invoices wherein you have to rectify it, and you will have to push it to the GST portal, to the IRP portal again and generate the IRN number. Okay. Now, the other part which you would be worried about would be your e-way bills. Okay, right. So that part also is being handled in Zoho Books. Let's say the invoice is created, right? At that point of time itself, we would be getting all the e-way bill details. Okay, and then we'd be sending it to the IRP. What IRP does is, so basically the IRP portal and the e-way bill portal is connected. All right. So they that is the IRP portal pushes it to the e-way bill portal, and the e-way bill is generated. So you basically have two options: either to generate it with the e-way bill or without the e-way bill. So these are the two options which is available. Okay. Now, apart from this, there is another functionality in Zoho Books which is known as the recurring invoices. That is, let's say you know that a sale is going to happen on a regular basis. Let's say on a month, on a monthly basis you have this sale. Okay, for this, how can it be handled? Like, I'm not going to create the invoice. The invoice is going to get created automatically. Okay, for this you just have to set up a preference. Okay, let's see what are those preferences. So under the recurring invoices profile, okay, you have three options: either you create the invoice, have it as draft, you manually push it to the portal, or the other option would be you create it, you push it to the portal, generate the IRN, and then send the invoice to the customer automatically. Okay, or you create the invoice, that is basically you're guiding Zoho. Okay, create the invoice, charge the customer, push it to the portal, generate the IRN, and send the invoice. So this is how the feature works in Zoho Books as such. So hopefully from October 1st, which is being mandated, we'd be having it in live with Zoho Books. So yeah, that's it from my side.
Yes, friends. So I think there are a few questions which are relevant for the discussion. We'll try to cover the same. So one of the question which is being repeatedly asked is basically whether for reverse charge mechanism e-invoicing concept is applicable. As we discussed, that the government in its FAQ has specifically mentioned that it will be applicable, and that's where we need to be a bit careful that even for reverse charge mechanism, the concept of e-invoice is going to be applicable. Then another question is, if I am below 500 crore, whether I can try this concept of e-invoicing, will it be applicable to me? So certainly it's not legally applicable to you, but you can go to the government portal and you can try certain features out and you can try to understand how it works, so that whenever it is made applicable to you, maybe for companies below 500 crore, it might be applicable from say 1st of January or something like that. So you are ready for the same. So you can certainly do it, but on a test basis or on your own understanding. Then can you amend once IRN is issued? As we discussed that once IRN or e-invoice is issued, you cannot amend it. You can only cancel it within 24 hours. And as we discussed that cancellation is possible, but you cannot modify or you cannot delete it per se once IRN is issued. So the government will always have a track of the fact that how many e-invoices were generated and subsequently cancelled by you. 500 crore less, as we discussed, right now not applicable, but just be rest assured it is just a matter of few more days, correct? Just a matter of few more months, and it would be applicable for even smaller entities, because the e-invoicing is being introduced in India in a phase-wise manner. That's why even 100 crore worth having companies worth turnover of say 100 crore, they are also going to get covered under the ambit of e-invoicing, but in the subsequent phase. Right now, on 1st of October, as we are considering, only entities who are having more than 500 crore turnover, they are covered. Makarand Deshpande, individual consultant, yes, applicable to individual consultant if his turnover right now is more than 500 crore, otherwise no. Is there anything extra to be paid tax to government during this new introduction? Certainly no extra taxes or anything you are expected to pay after in generation of e-invoice. You are only expected to generate a e-invoice, that's it. Means you are only expected to report the details to the government. No extra taxes to be paid by you to the government after introduction of e-invoices. Yes, if you are expected to generate e-invoice, not only you need GSTN of the buyer, if it is B2B case, but you will need many other fields also. For example, you will have details of his address, GSTN number, and etc. So certainly, as you are asking that whether I will need GSTN of the buyer, if it is a B2B scenario, certainly you will need GSTN of the buyer. How does my client has turnover of 500 crore or more? How does this impact my company with a turnover less than 100 when I raise invoice? So if your turnover is 100 crore, your recipient, who is the client of yours, say it is Infosys. Infosys' turnover is more than 500 crore, correct? So when you are raising invoice, you will continue to raise a normal invoice because e-invoice is not applicable to you, correct? So even if your customers are more than 500 crore, having turnover more than 500 crore, still e-invoice will not be applicable to you because it is your turnover which is important for you to understand whether e-invoice is applicable to you or not. If you are having B2C transaction, as we discussed, it is only applicable for B2B, not B2C. So I think we have covered almost most of the important question. If there are any remaining question left, they can be emailed to us at Zoho, and we'll try to reply to the same. And as the team has specifically mentioned that this recording would also be available to you. So in case any one of you have joined late or you would like to do a revision, so certainly the recording would be made available to you. And we will also be sharing the presentation copy with you, so you can go through the same at your own leisure.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much,
Yes.
sir, for the session. It was
Yes, thank
very
you. Thanks.
wonderful, and many people have also commented in the chat. Thank you, sir. And the demo also went well. To all the people, we will definitely share the recording as soon as we are ready with it.
Yes,
That's
certainly,
from
sir.
our end, sir. Yeah.
Yes, so we are extremely thankful to all the participants for joining in large numbers, and we are also thankful to Zoho team for organizing this webinar. And friends, we hope that you enjoyed the session. Certainly, as we discussed, that if you are having any question, please feel free to share the same. And if you like the session, please mention the same. Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.